welcome to That's Dope, the podcast. My name is God's Will. I got a special guest with me, Ify. Been wanting to hang out with
Hey.
him for so long, ever since I moved to LA. I don't think we actually have hung out in person
I
yet, huh?
know we've
Shit.
hung out more before you were in LA than
Yeah.
when you've actually been posted up. Yeah, how I mean like how have you been? I feel like that's the only thing. So,
Honestly, life is good. Life is good. Especially with just how crazy life is, in
oh
the
yeah.
world. Honestly,
hmm
I'm really grateful that life is good, other than romance, but otherwise I'm happy, and
Yeah.
then I'm also really proud of you, it's an honor to be able to talk with you because you're just killing it. You're killing it. You're out there,
Trying to.
not even trying, dude. You're doing it. I mean, you got yourself a blue check mark. Here you
Oh
are,
yeah.
showing off, trying to be the strongest on Twitch. And you just every TV show wants you on, right? You're doing well for the black nerds and Nigerian nerds, and it's yes, I gotta
Oh
talk to my
yeah.
brother over here.
Oh
So,
yeah.
I really appreciate you coming through.
Anytime, you got it. And I know the schedule. We've been getting the schedule down right, and it's been like last week was kind of like a hell week because it
Oh
was
man.
all on me, and this will kind of come back into whatever we end up talking with. But you know I'm the king of, I've built this, everything I've done on a bad habit of two things. One, always saying yes even though I may not have checked the calendar,
Uh,
and and then still refusing to check that calendar
oh no.
regularly. Like, I literally have a calendar date at the end of the week Friday that's like, check next week's cal.
Oh my
And I always do
god.
check it, but the problem is that I can check the cal, but if I didn't put it in, then it's like a wrap. But yeah, so essentially what happened was I had a shoot. It was like literally that day I was triple booked because I had a shoot that day that I totally didn't realize was that day, because also I do this thing, I don't know if you do it, where if you are told something or you plan something and you have a mind of the time frame without actually checking the time frame. So I was doing this shoot, well, it happens so I could just talk freely about it, but I did
Mhm.
that Twitch shopping show.
Oh, okay.
And like, when it was, when they offered it to me, they're like, you'll have a rehearsal and then you'll have it. So in my head I was thinking, rehearsal one week, then we'll do a rehearsal the next week, and then we go and do it. But it actually was rehearsal the day before, then the next day was the shoot. So that Thursday, I was supposed to do this. And then also earlier that Monday, someone was like, "Hey, Thursday, can you hop on the pod?" And I was like, "Yeah," not realizing that I already was booked for two things that Thursday without my knowledge. And then it just
Oh
ended up
no.
running late. But now, you have me on a Monday. I'm wide open. It's nothing but me and you. Uh, but
Hey,
yeah,
I'm
that's
glad.
pretty much, yeah. If anyone needs any advice, it's update that cal and check it regularly.
And look at it actually, right? Maybe it sounds like you need the widget on just front screen. Just be like, this is happening today. And also
Well,
to put the stuff in the cal, right?
here's the thing, yeah, is like, whenever it's someone else do it, like, shout out to everyone who sets meetings and then sends a cal invite. Y'all the real MVPs. Those I never miss. When I get those, I'm there. Why? Because I didn't have to even do anything. You
Yeah. Hmm.
sent it and it went straight to my cal. I'll see it. But anything that is like an agreement, where you're dependent on me to remember, oh man, that's a dice roll.
Yeah, which is great. Good for me to know too.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, I'm sort of like you.
Yeah.
I think it's a Nigerian thing,
Oh,
honestly.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't mind really coming late to things. I'm trying better to be on
Yeah.
time. I'm trying to remember all the things I said I was gonna do, but I feel it. I feel like it's in our blood somehow, I
Oh,
don't
I
know what's up
definitely,
with it.
yeah. I remember when my dad would throw these Nigerian parties, he'd always say, "Put the hour that like put it an hour earlier than you want people to be
Uh,
there so they can get there on time.
3
And
hours
that's
for Nigerians,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That told me everything I needed to know. I was like, okay.
Mhm. Mhm. Especially for parties. I mean,
Oh
I
yeah.
don't blame it, you know? So, I'm recovering myself, but, I'm gonna try to do that. I'm gonna try to actually, like, put the invite out there and just boom, here we go. We're
Yeah.
doing it this time.
Oh
But,
yeah.
honestly, I'm glad that we finally made it happen. I was like, I hope so." But, I
Oh
know
yeah.
you're a busy guy, so, like, it means a
Oh yeah,
lot.
no, I
So
had it. I strategically picked this one because Mondays are usually very clear for me. The start of
dope.
the week is very chill. So yeah, I was actually just like cooling, and then I started. I was like, oh snap, I need to finish this after school program application for Naomi. And then like I saw your text, and I was like, well, let me put the last touches on, and then I'll come through, and I
Sweet.
did.
I'm
Yeah.
glad that worked out. Gave me time to eat my burrito too, so worked out.
Oh, I'm a
So
big eat while
multitasking type of
podcasting.
guy.
Y
Oh, really? Okay, okay.
Specifically yeah, I'm always eating, and the editors always hate me for it.
I mean, right, chewing into the mic.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
I
no.
try and mute with the chews, but sometimes you got that crunchy thing.
Because sometimes you just hey, I don't blame you, especially, like, you're bulking,
Yeah.
your muscles need that energy, but
Yeah, yeah,
I hear that.
trying my best.
So, I guess, can you tell me, like, what all are you up to now? And, like yeah,
Oh,
like, how'd you
yeah.
also get into it too?
Oh yeah. So to answer the first question of what I'm up to now, like right now, I am currently writing for a show on NBC called Grand Crew, which you'll be able to peep in 2022 as it
Ooh,
stands,
okay.
which has been super exciting. And I'm also writing for a video game called Apex Legends, which you can
Ooh,
play right now for
that's
free.
tight.
Yeah. And so outside of that, stand up, improv here and there, and little things here and there like hosting for Twitch's Pog Picks shopping show, doing like little gigs here and there. I just have a thing where I have to keep working, and if I can fit it in my schedule, then I'll do it.
Oh, man.
It truly is wild. This is the second time I've been able to work, two gigs at the same time, and it's never on purpose. It truly, I wish I could be like, yep, this is how I try and line it up. Like at the early beginning of 2020, I started writing for this sci-fi show called The Great Debate, and that happened after at the end of the previous year. I kind of tested for this show called Super Punch that was going to be on TBS and Twitch, and that was like a long process. I think I tested somewhere in like August, September, didn't really hear back anything till like November, December,
Also, what
and
does it mean to
then
test, by the way?
oh yeah, sorry. And please keep doing that because sometimes I'll just do like the shorthand
Yeah,
and
for sure,
really,
for sure.
yeah. But test is a chemistry test, and that typically is like the last final stage. Like if you're auditioning for a pilot, the audition process is usually you audition for the casting director. If they like you, they call you back, and you'll either do a callback with the casting director, or luckily you can go call back with producers. Usually, if they like that, either there's another producer callback, or you do what's called a chem test. Um, and they take many forms. Like, I've done chem tests for like cable shows, and that one is more chill. Like, you kind of go in and it's like a final audition, and then you get like an offer. But when we're talking about network TV, it's even wilder because what they do is like they basically carve out your contract before you even audition, because it's down to like you and maybe like one or two other people. So essentially they're setting it up so that after this pick, we can just get straight to business. So like you're carving out your whole contract, which makes it even spicier because you're already spending that money in your head. Like you seeing how much you getting paid per episode, and it's looking nice, and you ain't even got the role yet, but you got the paper and your agents are signing off on it. So if you do get it, that is how much you gonna get. So like Kim tests can be real heartbreakers because you seeing all this, and then you go in there, you give them what you have, you give them your best, and then they're like, okay, we good. And you're like, but that money I saw, what happens to that?
Dang, that sucks.
Yeah. With this, it wasn't like that. It was like the more typical, usually cable Kim test isn't it's just like another audition, but like you're in front of like the execs and the people makers. And the process was pretty interesting. They had like about 8 of us, and they knew they wanted 3 hosts. So they had way more than 8 of us. I'd say they had about 12 of us. 6
Jeez.
6 guys, 6 girls, and 6 men, 6 women. And then like it was almost also kind of cut in half where like half were people who worked with E-League before and were on like the, sports commentator side. So like you
Mhm.
have, like Golden Boy and Tasty Steve, like those like OG like
Mhm. Big names.
and people who have worked. And then the other side was comedy people. So you had like me, JD, Kelly Nugent, and even like Mark Supreme Dreams was there. So you had like they had heavy hitters, and so what they did was they just kept mixing up the 3 people and just put them in different groups and just had us going off the prompter reading copy, kind of running through the show. And we did that, and then we got shipped home. I was feeling good. I was like, okay, I think I crushed it. And then like people who didn't get it heard back, and then I didn't hear anything. I was like, oh, bet, cool. And then the people who did get it heard back, and I still
Oh,
didn't hear anything. I was like, what?
oh,
Okay, what?
okay.
So I was like in London. So I finally like hit my contact. I was like, what's good? And they're like, oh, we want you to host the Twitch portion. So
Mm,
so so I got to host the Twitch portion, and that's all I kind of knew. It was like we're still working out the details because this was like a joint venture between Turner and Twitch. I was like, all right, bet. Um, and so then it goes into the next year, and they're still kind of like talking about like what it is. I mean, I definitely like they worked out like the logistics, back in the logistics, but as far as like when it starts was still kind of in the air. And then my manager was like, hey, they're doing the show called Great Debate. You know, do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, let me talk. And we had like a meeting, and it was like a nerdy debate show. I was like, oh, this is cake. Let me run it. But I was like, oh, but I might have um this show. But what worked about it was that the Twitch stream started at like 7. So it was technically after. But I was like, but I might need to leave a little early just to make it there. And they're like, bet we'll accommodate that. And then they both started at the same time. So that's how
oh,
I was like working like 2 jobs. I was like, and it was truly a gauntlet because I'd wake up at 5, drive all the way down to Culver City, right on Great Debate till about 5:30, hop
oof.
in traffic to from Culver to Burbank, get to set, do my Super Punch show till about 11:30, sleep, rinse, repeat. I was just doing that like
Wow.
just for like I think it was about 2-3 months because this obviously preceded COVID. I got to watch it slowly. It was wild, great debate. It was such a great show, but it was there was so much TV mired by the beginning of the pandemic because like it was a live, you know, kind of like comedy game show with a live studio audience.
Okay.
We had like cosplayers coming in, sitting in the front, and then it was like really fun. And then COVID happened, so then like slowly you had
Mm,
not as many live studio audience we could have in there. Then it eventually fully got nixed. Then you had like people, it was very early, so you had people definitely afraid of the COVID and wanting to be it safe. So we had like guests dropping out. It was, and then like it was so wild because like I got to do it, And like when you watch it now, it looks amazing. It cut amazing. You hear our audience, but when I did it, there was no audience. It was just the crew, and it was like
That must have
it's
been real tough.
yeah, but it flowed better because I think you have the crew who knows the show better, so they're laughing at the points you kind of want them to laugh at. Anytime you
Okay,
do
cool.
comedy with like real audience, you never know when they're gonna laugh because they're gonna be like they're gonna laugh at what they find funny, and it might not be the
Yeah,
perfectly
deadpan.
crafted joke. It
Yeah.
might be the way that you know, transition into your next joke. So but yeah, I did.
Man.
I so that's kind of very similar to what happened in this situation with Apex because Apex, my buddy Manny, he's one of the lead writers, and I've known him since my UCB days. Um, and ever since, like, he started with Titanfall 2, then he was like the lead writer for Apex. And I remember the moment he said that, I was like, if you ever need a writer, if you ever need a writer, and he'd kind of like laugh it off. And then eventually, like a couple of months ago, he's like, "Hey, can we schedule a meeting with you?" And I was like,
Yo.
"Yeah, sure." And so, yeah, I'm super stoked. I'm ready to do Apex and all this stuff. And it's funny because right before that meeting, I met on Grand Crew, which is a show for NBC that my homies like making. And we met, and it's funny because like just because necessarily your homies doing the show, it doesn't like guarantee it. You definitely get a better chance because you have someone who like believes in you, but it doesn't guarantee it. But it's been a while since I met. So I pretty much assumed I didn't have it. So I was like, bet. Literally after I meet with Apex and I'm like, okay, we're good. I get the call and they're like, yeah, they want you on Grand Crew.
Oh wow.
So I was like, here we go again. Let's go. And so
Man,
I've
double
just
shock.
been, yeah, luckily, Apex worked with me on that and they said, we'll like work your schedule, with that so that you can do it. And then when Grand Crew wraps, I can just hop on Apex, full, back to full time. Plus
That's
there was
tight.
like a startup too. So I was able to start full time and then work around Grand Crew now that we're on it. And then, you know, hop back. But it really was just kind of just saying yes. And that's kind of just ever since I first first came out here. And I say came out here very loosely because I'm an LA native. And by came
Mhm.
out here, I mean like coming to LA proper. I
Mm. You live in the city of
yeah,
LA,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Wow.
I was in Compton, and then from Compton, I was in Downey, then I was in Long Beach, then I was in, like, Garden Grove for a year before I came to LA proper. So I've always been
Wow.
around, and I always wanted to act, but, Nigerian parents, he wasn't having that, and it wasn't
I was
until
about
I
to
could
ask,
do
like, that's definitely my next question. Like, how would you get into this, especially like with being
oh,
African and all?
oh, man. So I've always wanted to act my whole life, and my dad never was about that. He was like,
I
"What?
mean, I can only imagine.
Yeah, he was like, "You need to be a doctor or a lawyer," any of that. And so it was something, but it was just like a passion I always had. And one thing I haven't given credit to him for in the past, but I will give him credit for, is I did do a play senior year for As You Like It, and he did after that, he got it. He liked seeing me on the stage, and he was like,
Wow.
"Yeah, you should do this." But this was kind of after a lot of like foundational breakdown. Like it's
Mhm.
funny because it seemed like it's just truly like I said, it just truly is interesting looking back because I've looked back so often, especially as I meet people who had these clear plans for what they wanted to do to college. They had a plan from high school to the college. Some folks, med school, like they had that locked down. That was something that didn't come to me. And I've always attributed it to being an aloof or like out there.
Mhm.
And as have gotten older and have run back the tapes and what I've been through in high school, what it really came down to was that I was this artistic kid. I wanted to be an artist. That was the first thing I wanted to be. I wanted to be
Like
an
drawing,
artist.
like
Yeah.
painter or
So
whatever.
I was like I was drawing. I was getting in trouble with my dad because he was saying I was
I can
doodling
only
instead of
imagine.
studying,
Yeah.
and I was truly passionate in a way when I think back to it. There was this site called Polycarbon BBS. It was ran by this one dude who did like concept art for video games, and they would do these things called a, a fight club. And the way it worked was everyone would draw a sketch of their main character, and there usually was a theme, or it was like sometimes it was like an anime battle, so you had to draw, anime characters. But and then after that, after everyone agree upon the terms, the characters' abilities, everyone would take a turn writing like 2 to 3 pages, and it would be this RP but done with art. It was really great. And what was really cool too is they didn't really discriminate based on your artistic skills. So sometimes you would design this cool character and you'd have this super dope artist who would just kill it and do your character in their art style, and you're like, "Oh, that's the potential." And I was doing that. I was using my dad's scanner in the office, uploading, comic pages, but then I was getting in trouble because he's like, "Oh, you're not paying attention to school. You're doing these comics."
Hmm.
And looking back, I'm like, "Wow, he was so focused on me, you know, going down this one path that he was missing that he had a
Hmm.
child inking,
The
uploading
potential what you can actually
comics."
do.
Yeah, just
Hmm.
going all out. And eventually I took a drawing class, and the teacher straight up, like, first class was like, "I don't like anime, I don't like cartoons, I like realistic drawing." So, like, it really killed my passion because
That
I would do
sucks.
his assignments that were life drawings, get good grades on that, and then when he was like, "Draw whatever you want," I'd do, like, an anime drawing or drawing in my style, and I would get bad grades. So, it was
Mm.
really just sitting in the class and having someone be like, "The thing you wanna do is bad. This thing that you really don't have fun doing is good." Um,
Hmm.
but essentially, what I talk about running the tape, my dad pushed so hard against everything I wanted to do art, and he said, "No, you don't do don't do it. You should probably do computer science because you like it." And essentially, looking back, I kind of figured, "Oh, I had a passion. I had a road I wanted to go down like every other kid. That road was
Hmm.
blocked, so I just stopped caring." And that's generally what happened. Is the thing I was told, the thing I wanted to do, I couldn't do. And so I noticed that is a thing that I it could be a fault of my own even as an adult, where if I'm working on something or I'm real excited about a story or a version of the character, and then I get told, or gets noted away, or that it gets changed, I'm not as excited about it and I'm not
Mm.
as invested. And, obviously as an adult, I know now to correct that because it's a collaborative experience. But as a kid, like, yeah, I totally just school
Shut
just
down.
shut down. And so I say all that to say, even though my dad was like, "Yeah, this acting thing's great," by then I was already in, just shut down mode. So my first like 2, 3, 4 years in community college, I was just farting around. I really wasn't doing anything. And so my dad got me a job working for that Lake County Register Recorder because he worked there, and he was like, "Well, it seems," in his brain, he was like, "You're not going to do school, so I might as well make sure you have a good job." And then eventually I found, I was dating someone who was in a black box theater production of um Little Shop of Horrors, and it
Hmm.
just came back to me. I remember sitting in the audience watching her perform, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is what I wanted to do. This is my passion." So then she spoke to the director, got me in another play, and then it was kind of history from there because I was doing improv at the time, but it didn't quite connect to me. The power of improv yet. I'll say that corny line right now, and we'll get back to that later. But like, to me it was just a fun thing I did with my friends. Like, I really didn't understand it. So then I started, getting reinvested in acting, started really falling in love with it again. And then another thing happened. A buddy of mine, Matt Apodaca, here's the Donald Glover episode of WTF. And in that episode, he's like, "Oh, there's not that many black improvisers at UCB," and he lists off names. And it was a wild thing because there was no reason he should have, but when I didn't hear my name there, I was like, okay, that's where I need to go. Because in my
You gotta
head,
get up
where I
there.
was doing improv, because I was good at that, I felt like I was good at that. I felt like I was the big fish in that scene. And I might have been the big fish in that scene, but it wasn't the scene. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
after hearing that, I immediately like sign up for UCB classes. I start taking it. I'm going downtown I'm like the commute to even getting to UCB was wild because I had to take the Metrolink from Norwalk down to Los Angeles to get to Hollywood, to get to this actor's studio on Melrose in time for a 6 o'clock class. And then by the time the class would be done, which is like 9 or 10, I would
Oh,
have
yeah.
to shoot all the way over using a bus station back to Orange County because that's when I was in Garden Grove. And
Wow.
I'd get home at 2 when I had to wake up at
Wow,
5.
too.
Yeah,
Yeesh.
because the bus system was just so slow at that time. So that s but it was like my favorite day of the week, even though it was a sleep deprived, so much effort, like, I had to, like, sneak out of work. I had my homie, uh, who would cover for me, because I would have to leave 30 minutes early to catch this train. There was no
Oh,
other
wow.
way. So he would, if someone came looking for me, he'd be like, "Oh, he's in the bathroom." And it was like 30 minutes. So it was so like easy to like not get
Mhm.
away with just 30 minutes one time a week. And I was just doing this run, and I ended up doing an indie improv show, and talking to someone and telling them how I want to be this actor and I don't know where to start. And they just immediately put me on game. They were like, "Well, you need to go to LA casting, you need to do actors access, you need to be upload a new headshot, just keep submitting. This casting director's got to get used to seeing your face, and then you'll start getting auditions, and then you just do it. It's like that." And I was like, but the power of improv line that I mentioned, and without I'm going to come through, is I remember coming up to the person. The way this conversation started was I was like, you know, I'm trying to be an actor, you know, and she was like, "You are an actor." I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "Well, you do improv, and that's just acting without a script."
Hmm.
And and it was just the 1-2 punch I needed to just light the fire under my ass. And then before I knew it, I was getting auditions, and I was like calling out sick for work for auditions because they'd be in the day, and then this was a 9 to 5
Uh-huh.
job. And oh man, like I like used up so much sick time. I ended up getting suspended from work, and
Ooh.
it was going south. And then one big event happened where I knew I was going to go to New York for a week for Del Close Marathon, because I told myself, I was like, if I go out to the Del Close Marathon, they'll know I'm dedicated. Everyone in the improv scene here will know I'm dedicated because I took the time to get out there. And
Mhm.
the second thing was I actually ended up booking a short film that was going to need me for a week. So that's when I had to make the jump because I had no sick time. They weren't going to give me any time. I was already had disciplinary action, so I had to quit my job. And that's when my dad almost blew a head gasket. He was
I
like, "You're going
bet.
to leave this job for
Right.
benefits?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got to, because I got to." And it was like my mom and my dad was kind of tripping, but what I said that won my mom over, and once I had my mom on my side, like I was like, okay, it doesn't matter that my dad, because at least one of my parents are on my side.
Uh-huh.
But I told my mom that I would rather try and do this acting thing and fail than to be sitting at work 20 years from now wondering what would have happened if I actually gave it a shot.
That's it right there.
Cause cause I cause it's a county job, it's a good job, it has good benefits. If you just stay there, you get a
Comfortable.
guaranteed promotion every year. So
Oh,
you
wow.
see so many people who have stayed in the same position for 20, 30, 40 years, and really, coming in there at a young age and seeing that and seeing them be like, damn. how did this happen? I was like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person
Mhm.
just with years under my belt, just sitting there waiting for retirement, wonder just because it's all I have left. So once my mom heard me say that, she was like, "Okay, I get it. You should go for it." And then it was kind of history. I quit, and it was not easy. It was I was just talking to my girlfriend about this, how like it went from, because you had like a guaranteed paycheck every 2 weeks that was really solid, to like working part-time jobs, and you're auditioning, you're not really booking much, so I truly I but I look back on those times, and the way I knew I was doing the right thing was, even when I was like at my brokest, not knowing how I was going to pay rent, not really knowing, what I was going to eat, but I was just happy going around town to these auditions just for the chance, just because I was in the running to try and get one of these gigs. I was so much happier than if I was sitting at that desk. So I knew I was already doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So uh that's the origin, and then I'll run quickly between the origin and now to how
Yeah.
it was obviously a lot of work, a lot of reps. I was doing improv, eventually met, six other like-minded fellas who like improv, and we wanted to start an all-black improv team called White Women. We started doing that. It came at the right time. It was right when, there were calls for diversity in the improv space. So like we just took full advantage of all the opportunities we were getting, because everybody, was putting us up. We were doing reps, and we were like doing really well. Like everyone on the team was some hitters, so it really was like a super kismet situation, because like I didn't even know any of these dudes. The way I ended up on the team was a friend I had from an improv class was like, "Yo, these dudes are starting an all black improv team and you should be on it." And then he sends an email to them with me CC'd on it. And and they were saying, they were
Oh, wow.
like, you were CC'd on it. So we couldn't like not say you could join because you
Say
were
it,
already in it.
yeah.
So like, it was like,
Ready to
because
walk in
they
it,
didn't
yeah.
know me. So they probably would have just been like, okay, if he just would have passed
Yeah,
along the
whatever.
email. But because I was CC'd, they had to do it.
Mhm.
And these dudes I'm so close with, but back then had no clue. And we just, yeah. And so doing improv with them, and at UCB, I was on a mess hall team, which was kind of like the step right before getting on a Herald team. And, just everyone I met there just presented opportunities. And that's why, what I talk about is like, opportunities, and like what you do with said opportunities, because like I was getting auditions, to things that my friends were writing on, but those aren't, those aren't free. Not like you have to pay, but it's not like you just get it. You get opportunities through these connections. You get to auditions, but you still got to audition. You
Mhm.
still got to win over the casting director. You still got to win over the rest of the producers. They're just a writer, so they don't
Foot in the
have that
door,
much
but
weight.
not
Exactly. So I went in. Uh, and right before this, actually, because this was for Workaholics, my friend Jen Murphy. And the reason I mentioned mess hall, we were on a mess hall team together, and they know me through improv. So they were like, oh, this role might be good for Ify. I go in an audition and kill it. But before that, my boy Andy T has a podcast called Yo, Is This Racist? And they were going to make it an MTV show. I go and audition for it. I test, I test for it. It was great. It was really close. Apparently it was down to one exec who wanted this other guy instead of me. And but they
mm.
liked me so much, they had me come do a sketch. So I still made a little bread. The show didn't end up going, but that's kind of like step one. The reason I mentioned that test in that show is because the people who produced that also produced Workaholics.
Oh, wow.
Serious Business is what they're called. And um and I was acting. It was halfway through the day, and it was kind of, we were chilling, and one of the guys came. He was like, hey, you killed it in your test, and you killed it in the sketch that you were in for the Yo, Is This Racist? You're really funny here. Have you considered writing? Would you ever consider writing for at midnight? I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, well, I want you to submit a packet for the next the next season. I submit a packet and I get in, and it was real dope. And it was funny because all that time I thought like maybe all those connections help, but really what I found out is they did blind reads of packets. So it wasn't even like, like anything helped. They did blind reads of packets and I got picked then. So after that, once I had my foot in the door, it's just kind of been the same thing where it's been like, yes, 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 yes. And I didn't get to hit on everything, but but
Mhm.
that's kind of what the one thing, if anyone takes anything from this, and by the time this comes out, hopefully I will have written this because it's funny that we're talking about this today because I saw some friends talking about moving to LA and moving to this and that. And I want to write kind of like the stuff that worked for me and maybe like something that'll help. So hopefully that'll be out too. But the biggest thing I can say is like say yes to everything you can and that you have the bandwidth for. Because I feel like a lot of the advice that kind of is going around as of recently is like know your worth and like make sure you're getting, paid appropriately, which is true. It's very important, it's very true, but I don't think that's necessarily a note that everyone needed in a way. Like everyone wants to get paid.
Mhm.
I don't think that's.
Yeah, but
I
starting out,
think
right?
yeah. I think the best advice I can give you is like less so knowing your worth, even though you should. That's these go hand in hand. It's not one or the other. But I think it's also know the budget because there have
Mhm.
been people who want to get a certain amount. They value their time and they know the value of that time, and they may be approached by a peer who can't afford that time, but you never know where your peers will be. Now, I'm not saying if a corporation, if a company's coming to you, no, know your worth. But I think everyone wants to work up. No one wants to work with their peers. No one wants to create great things
Mm.
with their peers. And I've seen so many people burn themselves by, having these, strict rates that they're sticking with their peers who just are working on shoestring budgets to make something dope, and then that shoestring budget thing they make pops off, and now they do have a budget, and now they're wondering why that same peer isn't going to come back to them now that they do have a budget. But it's like that's because you didn't help them when they need it's not like hate or
Mhm. You
anything.
didn't
And
show how real
honestly,
you were before the money, right?
yeah. And it's not even a thing where it's like, look, if you dope, they'll come around and pay you eventually. But just
Mhm.
know that on that journey to dopeness, that journey to undeniability, there's so many opportunities in helping each other out. Like you know, I do my me and College Humor go way back. Me and Funny or Die go way back. I do all this stuff for them now, but I started off by like one doing like one unpaid like kind of background thing for them. Then it's like an unpaid like one line thing in a sketch, and then they're like, "We got budget now. I'm getting paid." They get more budget. I'm getting paid more. Like it's like they all want everyone to level up together, and it's not personal. It's just like this is what we got, this is what we're trying to make, and we want to see if you can help us. Like once again, I have to repeat that doesn't mean that like if Microsoft is hitting you up and they not trying to pay, definitely don't. But i'm
Yeah.
i'm talking strictly your peers. I think we're so afraid to make dope stuff together because everyone wants to fast right. They're like, if I make something with Issa Rae, I'm on. And the
Mhm.
funny thing about that is that's not even the case. Like, if you think about everyone who's been on Insecure and look at every person, like, not everybody popping like that who was on it. Not just because they had a guest star in Insecure doesn't mean their career is set.
Mhm.
And honestly, Insecure is also still a great example because Issa went out of her way, and everyone who was on her web series, An Awkward Black Girl, got a piece of pie somewhere in Insecure. She booked
Mhm.
them at some point in there. I had a homie who I met through UCB who was like one of the legal, persons who he get a line here and there. It was the white dude. He get a line here and there. And but it wasn't about like, him getting, like, he was getting paid, way, probably way more on a HBO show, getting multiple days. All why? Because he held her down when they were peers. And then when
Hmm.
she leveled up, took care of him. So
That's
I
what's
think
up.
people don't think like that because it's all about like instant gratification. Also, I get it. We got bills to pay. But that's why I say what's in your bandwidth, because like sometimes, you may want to help, but you worked a double shift and then you had this and that. That ain't You ain't the villain. You take care of yourself first. But
Yeah.
also, be collaborate, make dope stuff with dope people, because you don't realize that you never know where the people at your level will be, even in a year.
Yeah. That's what's up, man. Like, I'm really happy, that you were able, to have that sort of foresight to work with just as many people as possible and to say yes to so many opportunities. And here you are popping all the way out. And it's
Mhm.
awesome to see the success. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess like right, like I mean, also like I appreciate telling like that whole story. Like it's really cool. I had always wondered like how you got started, especially being Nigerian. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
even me, my parents still ask me, "Hey, when are you going back to medical?" And I'm very happy where I am, but but
Yeah.
whatever, like we're here, we're doing good stuff, and we're making names for our people. So
Yeah.
I guess like now like man, it's like you are like so you do your Twitch stuff, right? You do your
Mhm.
podcast, like you do this writing. Also, I guess what well, for me, like being a layman, I guess like what goes into writing for a TV show or in like these shows? Like I don't really
Oh,
think I
yeah.
understand
No.
that.
Writing's fun. So there's a few different. I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. Like, first off and foremost, you just already have like multiple different ways and types of shows that you write, right? Like At
Mhm.
Midnight was typically like a late night show. And your late night show varies. For At Midnight, I could just tell you the way we did it was we had researchers that went all over the internet for like the funniest and most viral things that have happened the past day. Then we would go through, then they would pick what they felt was the funniest or fit the show the best. Then, as a room, a writer's room, we'd all sit around as the head researcher would take us through each of these stories. And we would just like, as naturally jokes came up and came out, we would just crack them, just naturally shooting off jokes. And then that, through that, once we finish all of them, we kind of go through and see which ones we can make prompts for. If you don't remember At Midnight, the way the show works is there was a news article or something that went viral, and then there would be a prompt that would do a joke. So the best example is like when Obama said was leaving office and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna need a job," and then Spotify tweeted at him, "Well, you can be the president of playlists." So the prompt that we came up with that news article is what is what is gosh, what was it? It was like, what will Obama do as president of playlist?
Mhm.
And what that is like, you're basically doing the setup, and then every answer is going to be a punchline. So, first off and foremost, you have to write the prompt that Chris is going to read. So you go through, you write a prompt, and you just kind of fill it with jokes. A lot of like it was pre formulaic by the time I got there, where like a lot of times Chris would have like it would be like funny descriptor, the person, what the news story is, a funny joke about it, and et cetera, et cetera. And then after we all had our prompts in, we'd send them in to the head writer, and then he'd like punch them up and fix them. And then we would, at the same time, they would take just the prompt out and put it in a doc where all the other comedians will sit around and just write jokes, aka answers for all of them. So then when our guests come in, they can come in and pick an answer and use it, or they come up with their own. But basically, we just would do that so that if we had like an actor, like actors and actresses who aren't like comedians, they can come in and look like rock stars doing these jokes.
That's what's up. Okay.
Um, and that's kind of how At Midnight ran. And then you had like a show like uh let's say I did a interactive show for this a platform called Echo called The Wizard and the Rent. And this one was complicated because this was a choose your own adventure show. So what we would do in that case is we would basically engineer outlines, right? And so we first things first is you come up with the season arc, what we want to happen throughout the season, what are the different results that they can probably get. Then through that, you would go through the episode outline. So we knew what was going to happen in the episode. We knew what needed to happen at the end, what we needed to achieve.
Hmm.
So
Start with the
knowing
end in
that,
mind. Gotcha.
yeah, we had the different beats. Usually with the Wizard and the Rent, we like to have like one magical event that's going to happen per episode, and the user gets to pick, which way, like um which
Ending or path, I guess they
yeah,
would
yeah,
go on.
which
Okay.
path they could do. And we had
Hmm.
two types of magic you can use. So and this one was hella like ambitious. Like there was a system that was letting you level up your magic the more you used a certain
Wow.
magic. So you were writing like stories and three different beats per stories, and then three different, so it was like a lot. So it was like a 5-minute experience, and it would be like almost 20 pages. And just so you know why that's wild, is typically the way TV is written, or most media screenwriting is written, is it's a page per minute. So like for a 30-minute comedy, you put 26 pages because to account for commercials. For a 120-minute movie, 120 pages. So the fact that you're writing 20 minutes of content for a 5-minute experience is like wildlife.
Yeah, that is wild.
uh and that's how that went, and that's why it was special. With this writers room I'm in, this is like my first network narrative show.
Hmm.
And with this one, it's pretty similar to the Echo show, except I don't need to write multiple outcomes. We kind of like figured out where we wanted you figure out where you wanted the arcs of all the characters you want. You figure out the arcs of all the characters that you want them to go through, and
Hmm.
then you start to weave them in together, and you hit stories. Sometimes you'll do it like, sometimes you'll want each episode to have a theme, sometimes you'll want each episode to have an event. Based on whichever way you go about it, you kind of carve that out via outline. And then you as a room will just go through and pitch on things that you think could happen, beats that can happen, things the character can do or say. And then it gets carved out into a two-pager, where it's like a two-page breakdown of the A, B, and C story, and like the thought that went into it, why you want it to happen, how it happens, and what that means for the character and why it's happening in the show. Then from there, you kind of you break out the script. The script is written, rewritten, read with the read either at the table read or with the room. Then in the room, you're pitching on lines, so you're joke pitching to punch it up, and then you just kind of ship it out. So those are like the three general ways I've written things. I hope that wasn't just
No,
information soup.
I mean,
You're
sounds
making
pretty
a
dope.
face
I
like,
feel like I see it, but like,
yeah,
I'm just sort of imagining like what a writer's room looks like. Imagining like throwing out ideas. I guess like it's like a brainstorm of sorts, right?
yeah, yeah. The
But you have to
best
be like
way to
witty though,
imagine
right?
a writer's room is like, think of like a group of people sitting at a table, someone's and the works on the screen, and you're just kind of like pitching out jokes, the jokes you find funniest, and pitching out like story beats that you think are great. And it's really chill, and it's super fun. It can get pretty intense, um just when you're starting to push up against deadlines, or when just like just because there's so many people doesn't mean that writer's block doesn't happen or that it gets hard to break a certain story. Sometimes
Mhm.
you're not trying to you're just kind of up against this wall trying to find the best way to go about this story, especially now when like it feels like everything has been done. So you're also trying to find like a unique way. You're also trying to make it something that isn't obvious. Like what is the thing that you don't expect?
Mhm.
So it's genuinely fun.
That's dope. That's really dope. Like, I mean, like, I would love to like see it one of these days, but you know, that's
Yeah.
a whole nother thing. But that's cool, you know, see the how the meat gets made in the kitchen behind, right?
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
man, and then also, I guess like as a last thing, you know, since for this podcast we always talk about nerd shit, and then you did talk about like how you know, you tried to draw anime and such, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh
I
yeah.
guess like I would ask like how I guess like how has your nerd culture like been a part of you? I mean, you do Twitch stuff, you do a lot of nerd stuff. You
Oh
know, I
yeah.
love your tweets. But I guess like how does like integrate like into your life, and then also I guess like even being Nigerian still, like, is that like a chip on your shoulder too? Like, that's a second question. Is that a chip on your shoulder, like, as you do, this creativity stuff, or, has it helped?
It's definitely helped. I feel like I want I use that as now I'm at the point where I'm starting to tell my own stories, and I do look at it as a way to make stories that haven't been seen or heard.
Mhm.
We are having a lot of Nigerian storytellers come out and making stories that tap into our culture, and I just want to be a part of that. There's so much of our storytelling, especially when it comes to magical things and adventure and mystical things, is so Eurocentric that like there's so much good stories to be told that comes from, Nigerian folklore. And so like that I really like want to do. I think as far as like nerdy stuff, oh, it helps me with everything, especially when I'm doing things like writing for a video game. Like it's hard not to let it influence you. Or when I'm writing shows with some action in it, it all kind of comes back into it, and it just makes me excited to keep creating, seeing how many like little references I can make to things that I know black nerds like me would flip their shit over.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I guess, like, what are you most into now? Like, just on the outside when you do get a chance to relax?
Oh yeah, well, I'm definitely into catching up on these animes that I've missed. I just finished watching Death Note for the first time, which
Nice.
was super fun. Didn't even realize that it's the same person who's making Attack on Titan. I finished up Attack on Titan,
Oh, man.
uh, and yeah, the new Evangelion movie went hard. It was real
Oh,
dope.
man, I still gotta see that too. I'm hoping to see that
Yeah.
later this week.
All
Man,
right.
cool stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm really happy that you're out there representing us,
Yeah.
and I'm
Trying
really
to.
excited to see it, bro. You're doing it, like not even trying. Yeah, but thank you so much for joining the podcast. It was wonderful hearing your stories, and it's given me more juice myself. I came into LA thinking it was gonna be like La La Land, and just like oh little kid in a big city who just doesn't know like what's going on, especially like when you're African, family doesn't really have that sort of
Hmm.
um that push behind you, like they support it but not really,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. They're. Yeah. Exactly.
yeah, yeah. And then also like being a nerd on top of that too, it's always tough. But hearing your story, and then also of course just seeing your success online, made me want to talk with you, and I'm really happy I got to hear your story. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
guess
Yeah.
where can people find your stuff, and I guess keep up tabs with you?
Yeah, yeah, just Ify Nwadiwe on Twitter and Instagram. If you follow me there, you'll know everything I'm up to.
That's what's up. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure talking with you. Can't wait to hang out finally
Yes.
now. And also, you're a dope guy. I definitely hope to bring you on the podcast some more and just keep hearing about like what you're up to.
Yeah, please do. Have me back whenever.
Hey, thank you so much. much. Also, your voice is spectacular. It was wonderful just like listening. I was like, I can just listen to this for a long time.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you so much, and to everyone that's listened the whole way, thank you very much. You guys are very dope. As always, peace.